just so frustrated that she was amazing. She was going through some shit and she had it hard. It wasn't easy, but she was killing it. She was fucking killing it.
So there's something about the fire that motivates you.
Everything fell into place then. And I've been waiting for that moment to happen again. I've been waiting for that feeling to come up.
What's it going to take?
I don't know. I mean, you know, when I did that last juice cleanse, I had said that if you're not motivated, if you're not feeling like this is, it's the right time, it's probably not going to happen. And I believe that you have to have your head in the right space in order for it to be successful. God. And I don't feel like I've been in that space for a very long time. I've just been kind of floating through, sometimes hitting targets, sometimes opening doors, but for the most part, I've just been floating through.
She brings up a good point here that like the timing's got to be right. She has taken people through juice cleanses. She tells them, you got to be in it. You got to be ready. The timing and everything has to be right. That's the same with clients. I'm doing this as a training video for my students. And when you're talking to potential clients, if they're not at this point that she's talking about and where she is right now, where she's ready for change, then your results are only going to be lackluster. You might not even see a lot of it because they're just not ready. They're not ready to confront all of these things that she's been confronting to really make the changes in their lives. And one surefire way to know if someone is ready to do what it takes, if they're committed to really look at the things that need to be looked at, is to charge a good amount for your services, because that is the incentive. When you charge more for your services, you get a better quality of client that is ready to do what it takes to make that change, like we're seeing here with Vanessa.
I have not. That time around, the relationship with Chris really burnt out a lot for me.
You've been floating and not wanting to deal with things.
Mm-hmm.
What's it going to take?
So many times it's been hitting bottom, and I don't want to hit bottom. I don't want to get there.
So what is it going to take?
Is it going to take to get back to...
See that? I repeated it. Right? Because it's like, yeah, so many times it's been hit bottom. I'm not, like, that's not a good enough answer for me. What is it going to take? Let's get real now. What is it going to take? Is it going to take hitting bottom? If so, let's say it. Let's be real. Let's put that on the table so that your conscious mind now knows that you're like, yep, I'm going to have to wait to hit bottom before I'm going to make any changes.
That fire I used to have?
What's it going to take for you to get what you really want?
Again, asking it and then clarifying where I want her to take that.
I'm hearing for me to be important enough to fight for.
Yep.
For you to be important enough to fight for.
That's what it is, right there. If you can sum up everything we've done so far, it comes down to that. That's what she hasn't wanted to see. That's the truth she hasn't been wanting to see or to acknowledge. That's what she's been avoiding. For her to be important enough to fight for. She's a good person. She's a do-gooder. She has done lots of volunteer work. She gives to everyone else. She gives freely of her services to the point that it drains and exhausts her. But she doesn't do the same thing for herself. It's, well, I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted, so I don't need to do that. It's that external validation that motivates her. And now she's seeing that she needs to be intrinsically or internally motivated to be willing to fight for herself, to go the extra mile for herself. When a friend calls on the phone, she's willing to drop everything, but she's not willing to drop everything for herself. That's an issue. Like, it's a good thing to be a charitable, giving, kind person. But if it's not being given to yourself or it's not being reciprocated, then, and there's resentment and there's other like mental health stuff that's coming up, that's when we need to look at it. And that's what we're seeing going on. So up until now, it has all been building to this right here. Being willing to fight for herself and knowing that she is worth it.
For me to be the reason instead of anything else.
Mm-hmm. You to be the reason. For you to be the reason. To fight for yourself. Fight. To make that real.
Mm-hmm.
This would be a good time if you wanted to insert a hypnotic monologue. This is the place to do it. But it would all be based on what she has already told us, using her words, and then pull out your inner thesaurus and painting that picture, not getting so specific that we don't know if it's sounding like her. You know, we're not painting a specific picture that maybe isn't what she has in her head. You throw out the scripts, you throw out the suggestions. We're working with what came up for her, and then perhaps building upon it, putting in this hypnotic monologue. Why here? Because we have her where we want her. Look at her. She is tranced out. She's got it. Her brain is going, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, can I handle this? Can we really do this? What am I going to do this? Yes, I can. This is what needs to happen. Need, I said, can be pointing to a program, but when it's coming from an empowered place, then that's a new program. That's a new program being laid down. I need to, I have to. It's a different quality.
Yeah.
That sigh.
Yeah, I mean, there was just a lot when I left Chris. That was in
Another regression.
2019.
Another regression here.
Mourned for like a year. And then lockdown happened. And anything that was normal got tossed around again. So yeah, it's not, I don't feel like I really, I don't know. I feel like there's just a lot blocked then, a lot really blocked then.
Do you see that
I
eye
got too used to
closure?
sitting in my room and hiding and not hiding,
See?
just hiding.
That hiding coming up again.
I want to do that now. Like, so often I just want to go crawl in the room and just sit there. You know, I used to sit in my room for an entire day. My phone, my computer.
It's what's easy.
And just not come out.
We're built.
Megan didn't care.
What did hiding do for you?
We're built to be efficient and lazy.
It was quiet.
Mm-hmm.
There was no interruptions. There was no, I didn't have to think. I didn't have to do anything.
That question I asked, what did hiding do for you? That's a roundabout way of asking, what is the secondary gain, right? So now we're getting at secondary gain, but there's no technique. I'm not dialoguing with the part to ask it what its role or its purpose is, what it wants, what's the secondary game. I could go that route, particularly since we've already done a lot of the therapeutic stuff. We've gotten her into trance. So now she is in that suggestible place versus me attempting to do the hypnotic work that brings up that the resistance. That's like, oh, you started, you're doing something. So I could bring in a tool like that, communicating with the part, but as you can see, it's not really needed. All I had to do is ask a question, and it's a roundabout way of finding out what the secondary gain is, what she or this part is getting out of it, what it wants, and so on and so forth.
Frustrated, but then I would thumb through my phone and 2 hours would go by, or, whatever. It was easy to pass the time and not be present.
What did that do for you?
See that yawn?
It kept me safe for more things to happen.
So she's finding it. So she's finding it. Protection and safety.
If I'm not allowing things in, nothing else can get to me right then.
So what does being safe have to do with the problem?
That's another way of bringing her back to the problem. What's going on with the problem now, and how does it relate to these new awarenesses that have been unearthed? Look at that. Pure unconscious moments, and I didn't have to get her relaxed or do anything.
I mean, that was oblivion. There's safety in oblivion. The less you know, or the less you keep yourself in awareness of, the less problems you have, right? If it's not there in front of you and nothing's nipping at your heels, then there's no problems.
So this is her finding those conclusions that we talked about early on, that I talked to you about, not to her. She is now saying those things out loud. She has those conclusions. She has that clarity. And when she's finding it on her own, rather than me teaching her or coaching her, that's where the power is. If it did feel like we were just kind of like spinning and she wasn't getting it, I could bring in some teaching or some coaching here, and it's going to be received where it wouldn't if we were just doing the old standard kind of techniques.
See no evil, hear no evil. It just doesn't exist. The problem is that I don't have oblivion anymore. I'm trying to create this space that looked like oblivion, but it's not. Because again, I'm not the only one living here anymore. I share a room now. And I can't pretend that these things don't exist. So it's or the upheaval is that's what I used if that was safety, if sitting in my room warding off all reality was safety, where I'm at right now isn't safe. And I'm sure that's why it's uncomfortable.
So what's happening right now?
Just happiness and anxiety and
see the stuff going on with her hands? That's all unconscious.
Fear. I'm afraid there's some things that this one particular issue I have is going to stall out my future. And I'm afraid for that to become known. I don't want that to be known.
Do you see all of those little Easter eggs, all of those little clues earlier about hiding, things in hiding, not being seen, things not being known? Now we're seeing this coming up right here. Yes, there's things that I actually know, that I consciously know that I am hiding, that I don't want people to know about. And I'm even hiding it from the people I care about the most. Now, she's not going, spoilers, she's not actually going to talk about what that specifically is. And you'll see that even without her disclosing that, without her even having to get into the muck and mire of that, we move through it. And that's how powerful this is, because it's all being done on the subconscious mind. We don't have to make sense of everything with the conscious mind. It just needs to make sense to her.
Quiet, so I can quietly deal with it, except that I'm not. I'm actually currently making the problem worse. So
How are you making the problem worse?
by compounding, by continuing to not do anything to solve it, it's getting worse.
It needs to be dealt with.
See
When
that?
we don't deal with things, what happens?
Yep.
See the yawn and the eye closure earlier?
What happens when we don't deal with things that need to be done with? When we avoid.
When those things happen and continue to happen, that keeps telling me that's a powerful word or phrase. Keep coming back to it. And other words and phrases that are related to that, when she says that, come back to that power phrase, that power word, so that we keep untying the knots.
Get worse.
And then there's more to avoid and more that needs to be dealt with.
Yes, there's more to avoid. This problem is known, but not the extent of it. And the extent of it is definitely, it's pretty harsh. And I don't want, reality is already bad enough. I don't want, them to see just how bad it is.
So you're hiding.
Yeah.
Your own new version of oblivion.
Mm-hmm.
Her word, bringing her word back. Look at that stare. Not mine, hers.
What's so scary about it?
It would further cast how badly and how irresponsible I've been.
Again, image.
It would make that lens even bigger.
Lens.
And
how things appear.
That's already been really painful to be seen that way.
Being seen.
And I don't want it to get worse.
See these recurring themes?
I'd rather keep that my dirty secret,
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather try to take care of it before the full extent gets pulled out into the light.
So what does that mean, to take care of it?
To literally take care of it, to gather the information that I need. I've tried to in the past. I have.
So that was again a roundabout way of asking her to search for solutions without actually asking her to find the solutions. So I didn't say, what are you going to do about it? What's the plan? Let's create a plan. I'm saying, what does that mean to, I think I said deal with it. I think I used that same word. What does that mean to deal with it? And then she gets to decide what that means. And she started coming up with solutions, but she could have gone any number of directions. But now she's starting to solve her problem.
Made forward motion to try and find out there are certain bits of information I need. And I went to reach out to that for that information. And the website or whatever was like, oops, sorry, we can't process your request at this time, or
Okay, in just a minute, I'm going to interrupt her. It's really important to interrupt your clients, especially when they start getting into this kind of talk. This isn't a regression here. This is a little bit of a backsliding. It's like, okay, I'm going to talk about my problem again. I'm going to get into story. And this is the kind of story that's not really productive. It's not regressive. It's not the smoking story where there are resources in there for her. I'm back in the story of feeling helpless and blocked and everything. And I'm going to call her out on it. Watch what I do. I'm going to call her out on it and not buy this. So just watch what happens.
they're doing some sort of internal updating or something. It was like, I tried.
Blah, blah,
and that
blah.
happens sometimes where I will like, okay, we're doing this. And I get going and I start doing it. And the resource I need to do it isn't available. Like,
That happens to all
I'm
of
like,
us.
why?
That happens to all of us.
Why is this happening? I'm actually stepping in right now. Why can I not? Why is it not available? So that's frustrating.
How does powerful Vanessa deal with obstacles?
Right there. Because that's all it is. It's an obstacle. And then it's bringing her back to choice. Are you going to be powerful Vanessa, or are you going to be whiny Vanessa? It's like, oh, there's all these obstacles. I hit technology, I hit an obstacle and I just collapse and I don't follow through. Which are you going to choose? This is essentially a way of saying, which are you going to choose? And I'm using the resource that she has told me, her vision of who she wants to be, who she has been before, who she already is, and aligning her with that. What does powerful Vanessa do when she hits obstacles? Because it's certainly not this whiny stuff. No. Well, I tried and then I just stopped, but I tried. Try is always a program. Try is always limiting thinking. And you're going to see here in a little bit what the real thing is. It's not even this at all. It's not even this at all. So I called it. This is all just an excuse. The real reason why she hasn't followed through is coming up. Just watch. So again, the question is, what does powerful Vanessa do when she comes across obstacles?
I would keep searching, or I would find people to help.
Again, solutions.
This particular issue, I have reached out to someone, but I've reached out to them enough times that it appears they don't want to help.
Back to whiny. This is conscious. This is conscious. Whiny stuff.
Yeah.
What's that like for you?
It's frustrating because I trust this person, and either they don't want to help, or their business is too busy to help, or they were too busy to remember to call back, or whatever the situation was.
This isn't the problem.
But again, I was dysfunctional enough to not follow up again, and
we're going to find out why. And we're going to find,
and to follow up.
And we're going to find out the real reason why.
Stopping you from following up again.
I'm concerned that I can't afford this person. I can't afford their help.
That's not it
but
either.
I need it.
It's part of it. It's not really
I'm concerned about the additional shame.
There we go.
Because they're going to see everything.
There we go.
And they're going to see how mismanaged it is.
Being seen.
And they're going to see how ugly the situation is. I'm afraid that I don't have the resources. The bottom line, and the biggest part is I'm like, I can't afford him. And they're going to see how fucked up shit is.
See, that's what it really is. It's not, well, I tried and they didn't get back to me and I don't think they really want to work with me. No, she's been keeping herself from it because she has these fears. That's why she hasn't followed up like we all do when we're dealing with things. We all hit obstacles. We all have to send multiple emails, multiple phone calls to people. So why is it that Vanessa has decided that this is somehow special? It's because there's this other thing going on. And now we're really getting to the truth. It's that same thing that she's hiding from the important people in her life and avoiding. And what do you think that's going to do to just general action in her life if she's doing so much avoiding, hiding, repressing? It's going to zap your energy, zap your motivation. Let's keep watching.
No. And that's scary for someone to see that.
It's scary for someone to see the dysfunction.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I'm being annoying at this point, but
Yeah.
I hope that
Because
you're
you're supposed to be
seeing.
powerful and responsible and have it all together. You're the one that's there for everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
You're the one that helps people clean up messes. You're not supposed to be messy.
Taking some license there, hypnotic monologue.
That's not allowed. Where did you get that belief? It wasn't okay for you to be messy.
I mean, I'm sure it's self-imposed. But I'm seeing, after you asked that question, I started seeing my ex Michael.
Regression. Look at that.
And if any, with him, if there was anything that he perceived as being wrong, whether it was or not, there was some sort of hell to pay. And I was wrong. I was told all the multitudes of ways that I was wrong and how the rest of the world would definitely agree with him that I was wrong. So I'm seeing that. Like,
now, if you had a partner that you had children with and were together for a long number of years, at least a decade. I don't recall exactly how long they were together, but they were together a long time, at least a decade. And that's the way they treated you. That's the way they talked to you. Do you think that you might start to think that way about yourself? And more than likely, he's not the first person to speak to her in that way. I know that to be a fact. We don't know that outside of this session. That's a path we could go down, but I don't here because I already know that. I could ask something like, who else told you that? How long have you believed that? There's a lot of places that I could go to get even deeper, those childhood wounds. I have done work with Vanessa in the past. Those things have been dealt with already. And because they're not coming up, because the session is already quite lengthy, there's a lot of richness here already. Just did not feel the need to go in that direction, but that's definitely a direction that you could go.
in my head right now.
There's something wrong with you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's scary and shameful.
Mm-hmm.
Notice I'm using
people to know that.
Yeah. I'm feeling a lot of shame lately. And calling it shame. I don't normally do that.
Mm-hmm. Staying quiet, letting her sit in that.
The complete depletion of motivation, the entire lack of it is, I don't know anyone else right now that has that big of a mess. I'm feeling it to be pretty heavy, pretty big.
It's heavy, big,
Mm-hmm.
really heavy.
The heaviest.
So how do you do that?
What do you mean?
It seems like you're an expert now at not having any motivation or drive.
Mhm.
How do you do that?
So notice how that question did not come out great or understandable the first time. And it's okay. You're going to see she's going to answer it. It's going to be fine. You don't have to be perfect. The goal is to say as few words as possible. Ask your questions in as few words as possible. Don't get all wordy. Don't go all over the place and get flowery. You can do some mirroring, but too much can take someone off track. I'm trying to use as few words as possible, and sometimes it doesn't come out as a complete or good or comprehensible question, and that's okay, because there's all kinds of ways to get back on track. And I could have even just let her figure it out on her own. I could have just asked it again and let her decide what I meant by that. That little bit of tension that's there is actually useful, which is one reason why we're not getting our clients into a relaxed state in order to do this hypnotic work, because that tension, that conflict, that little bit of anxiety can actually work for us. So I asked, how does she do that? She's an expert. How did she become such an expert at this?
How do I not have any drive or will?
I'll also point out that that's like a little bit of calling someone's bluff, especially she's not doing that here, but particularly if someone's like really caught up in the problem and the symptoms, and they just keep spinning around like what a piece of crap they are, how they're not enough. They just don't seem to be able to like get anywhere else. This is a way of kind of calling their bluff and being like, oh wow, you're an expert in that. How do you do that? If you were to like put on a class of how to be a super negative person, like how to be completely depressed and so much that you can't get out of bed or be functional in the world, like how would you do that? And that's essentially what we're doing here.
I mean, there's no,
See that yawn? That tells me that we're going on a good path,
excuse me.
even if it seems ridiculous, because that's how she does trance.
I don't know. I mean, the only thing I think of is that I don't have, there's this, I'm without structure. There's no structure keeping me accountable.
So if you wanted to give me a master class on how to do what you do, how would you teach me to do that?
Don't set an alarm. And if you do, sleep through it. Think about, let your body casually wake up in the morning, and it's okay if that takes about 2 hours for you to filter in and out of consciousness, have strange lucid dreams at the end of it. Get up, go straight to the couch, sit there and pull out your phone and start seeing what all the messages you've missed since you went to bed the night or morning before. Talk to those people, see what's on Facebook. When you run out of Facebook or that gets boring, go to TikTok. Just keep your mind engaged on things that are happy and pleasurable and elective until, oh my God, it's 4 hours later. You still haven't eaten and your partner's about to come home from work, or wake up from sleep because they've been at home from work for hours.
Do you see what we did here in a roundabout way? Remember earlier when she says, I don't have any tools on how to maneuver this or how to move past this like I had when I quit smoking? Well, she just came up with all of the tools and solutions she needed. She gave the opposite side. And so all she has to do is do the opposite of everything she just said. And her unconscious mind knows that.
Just completely eradicate all time and awareness of time and act like be like the epitome of the caricature of the teenager that everyone loves to bag on.
All right, she brings up teenager here, and this might be the only time she brings up teenager in this, but I want to point out that this is actually very important. We ended up doing a little mini session over a text message. You can actually do ACH over text. That's kind of fun. And so we did like a little back and forth for about 15 minutes after this session, maybe a month after this session or so. And this teenager part like really stuck with me, because we hear a lot about the other inner child and what that little kid wants, and honoring that little kid and talking to the little kid, not just when we're in therapeutic sessions, but also in our lives, and like having a connection with our inner child. But we don't think about the inner teenager. The inner teenager is quite different, and I'll do a video on the inner teenager at some point. But the inner teenager is the one that is rebellious, right? And what is it rebelling against? It's rebelling against responsibility, rebelling against all of the strategies that it had to use when it was younger in order to get attention, care, love, affection, to get its needs met. And then it's saying, forget you, forget that. And it might not be towards the parents, it might be towards school or society, or it might not even really consciously be rebelling, but it wants to have fun, it wants freedom, it wants to hang out with friends, it wants to do all of those things that she mentioned earlier. She's like, well, when I lived in St. Louis, I had all these distractions. I could have lunch with a friend, I could go here, I could go there, I could do all of these things with people. And that's the inner teenager that doesn't want responsibility, that wants to be footloose and fancy free, and doesn't want to be an adult. And in that little mini conversation she and I had, it was all about this teenager and not wanting to be an adult, not liking the word adult, not identifying as adult, and asking a bunch of questions about that. Like, what does it mean to be an adult? Like, what does that mean to you? What about that doesn't your inner teenager like? And so in that instance, it was more like parts were giving the inner teenager a voice, communicating and dialoguing with the teenager in that way, and not to fix or change the teenager, which is the way that coaching or therapy often goes, just to get to know the teenager and how the teenager thinks, what it wants, how the teenager is valid, acknowledging that what the teenager wants makes sense, and it's okay to want that, and how the teenager is bringing some sort of gift into their life. And then we can start to kind of like poke some holes in things. How does that serve you now as a 40-something-year-old adult? Does that way of thinking serve you with your purpose and the success that you want? What parts does it help you with? Where doesn't it? What needs to be tweaked? And so that can be really powerful. And I just wanted to take a moment to say that that's a route we could have gone here, but we didn't. And so all roads lead to Rome. We go a different direction and have really good success.
Being completely irresponsible and laid back and, total fuck it lifestyle. And then keep in mind, every once in a while, you're going to get an email or a text or something that reminds you, hey, you're not doing this. This is something you're supposed to do. Come up with a quick excuse when someone asks you, hey, did you get this thing done? No, because blah, blah, blah. And sometimes they'll be honest. They're like, no, I fell asleep. I was really tired and I fell asleep. But
so no schedule, lots of social media, make excuses and lie.
Yeah,
Sounds like a good plan.
it's pretty effective. Super effective.
What if someone says, I need this done today? Then what?
I'll get it done today. It'll just likely be last minute. And I've been aware of that. I've really been trying to make myself more conscious of things and get things done in a short amount of time. So some things happen faster than others. The things that do happen more quickly will happen within a few hours of them needing to be done. Other things will happen right up to the last minute. So
how are you able to make that switch?
It depends on how into the distraction I am. If I'm in just a complete fuck it mode and it's really, in that respect, it's very selfish. I feel like it's an incredibly selfish practice where the needs of someone else is not as important as me disengaging. I don't want to deal with this. Why are you making me deal with this? I don't want to deal with it. And I feel like I'm making it sound a lot more blasé than I want to, because I don't feel like I'm in that space. I'm not blaming someone else for me not doing it. I'm well aware that it's me.
What about your own needs?
Like I said, I shower like my own needs are just as irrelevant as someone else's. That's not a thing. I don't take my medicine routinely. I don't the only thing I do, excuse me, when I feel like I need to is go to the bathroom, and even that can be delayed. Eating, which usually have something close by that I can just eat on. Yeah.
So delay and have as few needs as possible.
Yeah.
Good masterclass.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So how are you feeling about the problem now?
I'm not feeling great about it. I'm feeling a lot, again, I'm kind of feeling really selfish.
Mm-hmm.
We hit more knots. That's the selfish part. I told you about that earlier. Now we're there. Now we're getting to the selfish part.
It's feeling more conscious than this mysterious paralysis. It's feeling more like it's been a decision versus something that is not, which doesn't feel great. Makes me feel like even more of an asshole. So I feel like I'm almost confessing right now and not just describing symptoms of a problem.
And what's that like for you?
I just want to point out there what a big deal is that she just said that. Notice what a big shift in mindset that is. And maybe she doesn't feel hunky-dory and happy. Maybe her problem isn't solved and fixed and she feels amazing now. But at least she's being real. She has a new awareness. Before, it felt like it was out of her control. She even said that. That was the first unconscious moment that she had, not in control or out of her control. And now she's saying, actually, it doesn't feel like it's something that I'm powerless against. It essentially feels like a choice and I'm being selfish. She didn't say those exact things, but that's essentially the arc that's happening.
Well, again, it feels bad because, again, I'm not even taking into account still my own problems or issues. It's because I feel like I'm thinking about like the letter that I have is still sitting on my printer that I need to sign, that I need to mail to Megan in order for her NM to be able to manage something they need to have taken care of. I am thinking about,
This is all
you know,
conscious.
the application that I need to turn in. I am thinking about all these things where I'm not only failing me, but I'm failing other people. And
as we know, that's where the real pain is for her, failing other people. She can deal with feeling herself, but now it's coming down to other people. And that would be another avenue we could go down here, is really pushing that pain button when it comes to other people. How is this affecting Nat? How does this affect your children? Getting in there more, and how do you want to show up so that we're creating more motivation for her? Because we're seeing that's her motivation. Her motivation is other people. And so how can we turn that so that it works for her? That's not the path that we go. We go a different path, but all roads lead to Rome.
and it's not, you know, we entered an agreement. I made an agreement to do these things, and I'm not upholding it. It feels like paralysis. This doesn't feel like a decision. But the more we talk about it and the more I'm describing it, the more it's feeling like, yeah, I'm a cocky asshole and I'm just not doing shit.
See how
You know,
quickly she flopped
That's
there?
the vibe I'm getting from myself right now.
See how quickly she flopped there? And you can look at that as like, oh, well, don't be so hard on yourself. Don't call yourself a cocky asshole. But like, that's what she needs to be feeling right now. That's what's there. That's what coming up. That's what is. So we're not going to resist it. We're not going to try to sugarcoat things. We're going to stick with this thread of thought. And it's a little possibly off topic. We're going to explore this a little bit. This is a common thing that you see with this personality type: the people pleaser, perfectionistic, codependency, empath type, this guilt, the shame, feeling selfish for prioritizing themselves. And that's what's at the heart of why she's not prioritizing herself. That's one of the things there. Because I'll be looked at, again, the image. How am I going to appear? Appearances. I will appear selfish and asshole. Those are the two big words coming up there. Was that conscious before? No, but now it's here. Now it's coming to the surface. I'm going to look this way. And one of it is acknowledging it herself, but the bigger fear, because of how relational she is she's going to be seen that way. This is so common. People are going to see me as selfish, as an asshole. For business owners, as materialistic, if I actually charge my worth. We're going to explore this rather than try to sugarcoat it and make her feel better about it.
Cocky asshole. It's not doing shit.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything wrong with that?
Yeah. That's not who I am.
You sure?
Challenging her.
Are you sure you're not a dickhead? You might be. I'm pretty sure.
Laughing can be an
be.
unconscious moment. Laughing, giggling can be all unconscious.
How I would like to go down being remembered.
How do you know that's not who you are?
Because it's not natural. I've tried being an asshole before. Like, I've tried, like, well, you know, if you won't be a decent human to me, I'm not going to be a decent human to you. I can't flip that coin. I can't be that person back. It's not natural.
So then you said it sounds like you're just being a selfish asshole. Are you?
Not intentionally. And not for vindictive reasons or being to be vicious. I just don't want to go through the pain. I guess.
There we
The
go.
fear.
There we go.
There it is. There.
Face all of those things. Face the shame, face the realities.
Again, that's our next big thing, everything leading up to this. I just don't want to face it. I don't want to face it. It's not that I'm an asshole. I'm just afraid and I don't want to face it.
So if you don't want to, then what?
This is a little CBT where we're exploring a future timeline that is one around worry, because people get into these anxious, worried states and loop, but they don't actually allow themselves to consciously explore, well, what would really happen if the shit hit the fan? Well, I'd lose everything. And then what would happen? Well, people wouldn't want to be my friend. And then what would happen? And eventually people get to a place where, well, I guess I'd just start over. I'd pick myself up. I'd learn some things, stuff like that. And so it's actually exploring that feared timeline so that it can have completion rather than keep looping and cycling without having that full exploration. And that's what we're about to do.
Well, the easy answer to that question is it won't happen. Although I could not want to and do it anyway.
What will happen if you don't? You don't want to, so you don't do it.
The fires.
And then what?
The thing that I want so desperately to protect will probably fall apart.
You sure?
No, but I would. I mean, if I were not, I would not stick around with someone who's that much of a mess.
So notice earlier I said, what would happen? And she goes, the fires. Notice, didn't need to be any explanation. She knew exactly what that meant. And that held more significance than a whole paragraph of words and a vision and out picturing. Fires, that was enough.
And then what?
On to the next. Then what would happen?
Lose my home, lose my partner, the future that I want to have could be completely destroyed.
And if everything's destroyed, then what?
Well, part of it's easier, right? Because I don't have those nagging, emotions to worry about, because I don't have to worry about hurting anyone anymore because I'm by myself again. So that's convenient.
Secondary gain.
And but the problems are still there. These aren't things that just go away.
No? You sure about that?
The yawn.
You sure about
I'm
that?
saying, yeah. Yeah, they don't just go away. They turn into other problems, which compound the situation.
Mm.
But yeah, if Nat just decided enough is enough, I'm out of here, would be horrifying. I'd be back to only having to worry about me again.
Mm. And you only have to worry about you.
Yeah. Not ideal. It's definitely not what I consciously want. But that's that's reality.
What are you willing to fight for?
Now we're turning it around. We've explored that pain, and now we're going to paint another picture for her.
What fight?
My freedom. And that's not a statement of physical captivity, it's the mental and emotional captivity. Because I am held hostage by all this.
Mm-hmm.
Your freedom is worth fighting for.
Mm-hmm.
Is it?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Let's dig down. Let's make sure you mean this.
The freedom of fear and apprehension, pushing through to get to a clean space so that there is no fear or apprehension around the stuff that I'm sitting on right now.
What does it mean to fight for it?
Like with the smoking, I was given tools. I was told, if you start feeling the panic, do this. I didn't have those tools before. I don't have any tools right now. I don't know what to do. I legitimately do not know what to do.
And we know
What
that's not
does
true.
It mean to fight?
That's
you?
why I ignored it. Asked again.
It means that I'm first and I'm important.
Thank you.
I'm not doing this for someone else. I'm doing this for my own legitimacy, for my own purpose.
It's for you. Because you're worth fighting. You're worth fighting for you. And you do know what to do. What does it mean to fight for you?
Drilling down some more. Keep all of this space.
It means to make myself as important as I've made everyone else. It means to act as though I'm the emergency. What I need right now is for me to come with that energy of shit's hit the fan, and it's my fan, and I need to come take care of it.
What's it like to say that? To acknowledge that?
It's daunting.
Fight usually is.
There's a lot of fans.
What's the simplest thing that you could do that would have the biggest impact?
So this is tasking, just a little bit of tasking.
First thing that I want to do first would be to sign that letter and mail it to Megan. Mm-hmm.
It's the simplest thing you can do for you.
That was important for her, for you. From here on out, some of my processing instructions get a little muddy. I think I was covering the speaker.
I have so many things to do. Write a list of all the things I need to do.
Solution right
I
there.
had this argument with Nat when we first moved here. Because they were just asking me, what do you need to do? Like, well, the first thing I need to do is make a list. And they're like, no, you don't need to make a list. I'm like, I'm telling you, I need to make a list. No, that's not what you need to do. You don't need to do that. You need to do this. Because they have a very different style of handling things and believe that that style is all important and the only way. And
make a list.
yeah.
What else? Just based on that story, what does that story tell you?
There's been several situations where I've let their very rock hard, defined, chiseled in stone means of handling things define mine, which are very different. We have very different styles of communicating, of processing information and a lot of other things. And allowing my ways to be compromised or questioned or rolling them over as wrong is not something I'm able to do anymore. I need to be
See that?
okay with what I'm doing, knowing that.
So that's our solution right there. Now, could she have gotten that in a book? Could she have gone to a stop smoking specialist and gotten that solution, that tool? No, she had to find that. And I could have told her that. I have told her stuff like that before, but it doesn't sit. She had to find it. And that's what we're doing through this process. She's finding her answers. And knowing what you know about Vanessa, what you've seen about her, how kind-hearted and giving and even self-sacrificing she can be, it makes total sense that she would come up with this solution and others like it. A well-meaning and caring partner that wants the best for her is like, no, don't do that. That's just another way of avoiding. You can make lists all day long and not ever mark the list off. That's something that a coach would say. Like there are, coaches that say that, like, stop making lists. It's just another way to keep yourself busy without actually doing it. And that could be true, but we're seeing here for now, for Vanessa, that that's not true, that a list is what she needs. And upon talking with her 4 months later, she has the checklist, and the checklist has been super useful for her. I also want to point out that a lot of times the things that come up in these sessions, they don't act on it later. Maybe she doesn't need the checklist, but this is what the mind needs right now. How it ends up unfolding later can be completely different. Often when we're checking in on people, we're like, I'm holding you accountable. I'm an accountability coach. Did you do that? That's not what they need. Avoid checking in and just let them process. They got what they needed right now, but it doesn't mean that this is the permanent solution. This is what they have to do and implement. This is just what they need right now to get to the next step. But as we know with Vanessa, yes, the checklist did work and she did implement it, and it's still working for her.
What I have to do for me is important and it's valid.
What you have to do for you is important.
Mm-hmm.
Listening to yourself and what you need and how you work. So what if you've seen that?
I'm about to do some testing here. So we haven't done any testing yet. And this is something that's different from pretty much everything that's out there. Normally we would just leave the session right here. Look, we found our solutions. We've worked through things. Let's marinate on this and see what unfolds. But no, we're going to test it now. And then through our testing, we're going to see if any more knots come up, and then we're going to work through those knots. FYI, yes, more knots come up. We would never know that if we didn't go about testing. I'm giving her some scenarios so that when she goes out into the world in real life, like, everything can be like understood. Now it's like, oh yeah, everything's great. I get it. But we go out into the world and then we're tested. Situations occur, people come into our lives, and all of a sudden we just don't know what to do. And then all of the work that we did in session crumbles because of this unknown that comes up. And so we're not going to be able to cover every unknown, but we want to bring in things that are going to challenge. And Vanessa has already told me things that challenge her. And so we're going to test it against those things. And then we can also just come up with some imaginary ones, and we can come up with just some really out there things. But the more we test, the better. Since this is already a pretty long session, the testing might not be as rigorous because we've already, worked through so many of the knots. Yeah, so let's see how this testing goes.
You said, I've got this one thing I need to do. First thing I need to do is write a list. And he says, that's not going to do any good, Vanessa. That's not going to do any good. Why are you doing that? What are you going to do?
I'm just gonna say too bad I'm doing it anyway.
Did you hear?
This is how I choose to waste my time.
You hear that? You hear that strength?
This is how you choose.
Mm-hmm.
Use your time.
Hear how unwavering that is? See how strong her gaze is?
Hearing things around decisions and choice.
Mm-hmm.
Seems like you're coming back to a place of choice. Or it didn't feel like you had choice before.
Definitely been times I didn't feel like I had choice.
So what if Nat, with their loving heart, says, Vanessa, you just need to XYZ, whatever that might be.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't feel it's true, but you don't want to rock the boat. You don't want to destroy the best thing you ever had.
Using her words there.
But what?
Because it's not about the XYZ, it's about what she said earlier. I don't want to destroy the best thing I ever had, so I'm going to play it safe. I'm not going to challenge him. I'm not going to challenge things. When he says, oh no, you don't need a checklist or whatever it is, I'm just going to let things go because I don't want to damage this. But we're now seeing that by not doing that, it is damaging the relationship because it's damaging her because she's not using her voice. She's hiding for the sake of whatever it is that she thinks she's getting out of it, but it's having the opposite effect. And that's how that self-fulfilling prophecy works. What we fear, we find because we start tiptoeing around things that we shouldn't tiptoe around. Let's see how she responds to you that.
Nat honestly does not care what I do as long as I'm doing something and it's working. So I can tell them, well, this is how I feel like I'd be able to this is going to work better. And they would accept it, and it wouldn't be an issue.
What if it was?
Did you see her waver there?
An argument, like writing a list.
Hear her waver there? So I'm going at it more.
I would definitely shut it down because with this situation being so fragile, I would have to let them know that, look, your input right now is not important. They've been fighting for me. They've been fighting to push me. They've been fighting to get some sort of fire happening. And so they're very invested. And I get that.
Fire.
But I would have to make it clear that you can't, there's no taking over here. I have to do things the way I know how to do them, or that, is important to me. Your methods, my methods are totally different. So that's not what I need to do. This is what I need to do.
So you write that list.
Mm-hmm.
What's at the top of the list?
Asking her to
Something
get asking her to get specific.
The letter from Megan, that's the easiest thing.
Again, that's for someone else.
What's next on the list? That's for you. Fighting for you.
Take my supplements in the morning.
Your supplements.
Simple,
That's a good start.
easy.
Yeah, I mean,
Perfect.
my energy levels are just, caffeine doesn't even work. They're just plummet, and I've had to adjust them, but this bare minimum supplements I'm taking with my estrogen has helped me a lot. So keeping up on those things.
Sounds like a good start.
Yeah.
With that tasking, that was also her resource. Write a list. Now, what is on the top of that list? Take my supplements or her medicine, she said earlier. Her medicine is her supplements. She could have said something that made absolutely no sense based on her problem. She could have said, thing at the top of that list would be for me to make a blue paper mache hat so that I could wear that hat when I do my laundry. If it really did feel like another distraction, like, isn't that just going to be another distraction? Is that really going to move you forward in the direction that you want? Then, I could question her about that. I could say, how do you know? Generally, when we're at this state, it's not something that I'm going to question. I might ask another question or two just to get more details so they're cementing it in. But really, it doesn't matter. Whatever the mind comes up with is good, because it doesn't have to be literal. It could be a metaphor. And if she did say a paper mache hat, she may never make that paper mache hat. It's not about actually doing the thing that she says she's going to do. It's about whatever the mind needs. And she might go completely opposite direction. So we're just working with what comes up here for the most part.
Part 4 coming soon.